Good evening. Tonight, we leave behind the marble temples, the grand triumphs, and the famous emperors of ancient Rome. Instead, we will walk alongside the ordinary men who made Rome extraordinary, the soldiers. For centuries, Roman legionaries marched farther than almost any army before them. They crossed scorching deserts beneath the blazing sun. They climbed icy mountain passes where even pack animals struggled to survive. They built roads through dense forests, raised forts on distant frontiers, and fought battles that reshaped the ancient world. To later generations, they became symbols of discipline, courage, and military excellence. But beyond the polished armor and famous victories was another story, a quieter story, a human story. Now, what was it actually like to wake up as a Roman soldier? What did you eat? Where did you sleep? How exhausting was the training? What happened when you became sick, homesick, or frightened before battle? Tonight, we'll leave behind the legends and explore the everyday reality of life inside one of history's greatest armies. So, settle into a comfortable position, allow your breathing to slow, and together, let's travel back nearly 2,000 years. Our journey begins long before the battlefield. It begins with an ordinary young man making one of the most important decisions of his life. Imagine standing in a busy Roman town during the 1st century AD. Merchants call out from crowded market stalls, children weave through narrow streets, blacksmiths strike glowing iron with heavy hammers. The smell of fresh bread mixes with smoke from nearby workshops. Life continues as it always has. Yet, for many young men, the future is uncertain. Some will remain on family farms, others will become craftsmen or merchants, but a select few will choose a very different path. They will join the Roman army. For many, military service offered opportunities that ordinary life could not. A steady income, regular meals, adventure, the chance to travel across the empire, and after many years of loyal service, the promise of land, wealth, or even Roman citizenship for those who did not already possess it. Joining, however, was not as simple as walking into a recruiting office. The Roman army demanded high standards. Recruiting officers carefully examined each volunteer. Height mattered, strength mattered, good health mattered even more. The army preferred young men who appeared physically capable of enduring years of hard labor. Strong shoulders, healthy teeth, good eyesight, steady posture. A recruit didn't need to look like a giant, but he needed to convince experienced officers that he could survive the demanding life ahead. Many applicants were turned away. Those accepted soon discovered that the hardest part had not yet begun. Before receiving armor or weapons, every recruit swore a solemn military oath. This oath, known as the sacramentum, was far more than a simple promise. It was a lifelong commitment to obey orders, to remain loyal, to never abandon fellow soldiers, and to place the needs of Rome above personal comfort. Breaking that oath carried severe consequences. Discipline formed the foundation of the Roman military. Without it, Rome believed no army could survive. Once the oath had been taken, the transformation truly began. The young recruit who had arrived wearing ordinary clothes was gradually stripped of his old identity. His hair might be cut shorter, his clothing replaced with military garments, his belongings reduced to only what he truly needed. Life immediately became more structured. Every hour followed a schedule. Every task had a purpose. There was little room for laziness. The instructors wasted no time. Training began almost immediately. Contrary to what many people imagine, Roman soldiers spent surprisingly little time fighting actual battles. Most of their military career was spent preparing for battles that might never come. That preparation was relentless. From sunrise until late afternoon, recruits trained almost continuously. One of the first lessons involved marching, not simply walking, marching. There was a difference. Roman armies often traveled 20 to 30 kilometers in a single day, sometimes much farther, and they rarely did so carrying only light equipment. A fully equipped legionary might carry more than 30 kilograms, his shield, his sword, his dagger, several throwing spears, food, cooking utensils, a shovel, wooden stakes used to build camp defenses, water, blankets, personal belongings, everything he needed to survive. Later generations jokingly nicknamed Roman legionaries Marius's mules because they carried so much equipment on their own backs. At first, these marches were exhausting. Feet blistered, shoulders ached, legs trembled. Some recruits secretly wondered whether they had made a terrible mistake. But the instructors showed little sympathy. Rome expected endurance, and endurance could only be built through repetition. Day after day, recruits marched again and again, until distances that once seemed impossible gradually became routine. Marching alone, however, did not create a Roman soldier. Next came physical conditioning. There were no modern gyms, no exercise machines. Training relied entirely on the body, running, jumping, climbing, swimming whenever rivers were nearby, lifting heavy stones, digging trenches, carrying timber. Every activity strengthened muscles needed during campaigns. Perhaps the most famous part of Roman training involved weapons practice. New recruits did not immediately train with normal swords. Instead, they used wooden practice weapons. Surprisingly, these wooden swords were often heavier than real ones. Training with extra weight forced muscles to grow stronger. When soldiers finally held genuine weapons, they felt lighter and easier to control. The same principle applied to shields. Practice shields could be heavier than those carried into battle. The instructors wanted every movement to become effortless through repetition. Again and again, recruits struck wooden posts planted firmly into the ground. Each post represented an imaginary enemy. Thousands of practice thrusts, thousands of defensive movements, thousands of carefully repeated drills. Rome believed victory was earned long before a battle ever began. It was earned here, in dusty training fields, among tired recruits, one carefully practiced movement at a time. Eventually, every Roman soldier discovered that training was only the beginning. The practice fields, wooden swords, and carefully organized camps had prepared him well, but nothing truly compared to leaving the safety of a permanent fortress and marching into unknown lands. A campaign could begin with little warning. One morning, a messenger would arrive, carrying orders from a governor or the emperor himself. The camp immediately came alive. Blacksmiths sharpened blades, armorers repaired damaged helmets and shields, pack animals were loaded with supplies. Officers gathered to study maps and discuss the route ahead. The soldiers packed their belongings with practiced efficiency. Every item had its place. Every unnecessary possession was left behind. Within hours, thousands of men were ready to move. At first light, the sound of a bronze trumpet echoed across the camp. The gates opened. One by one, the legions stepped onto the road. A Roman army on the march was an impressive sight. The standard bearers walked near the front, proudly carrying brightly colored banners that marked each unit. Among them stood the legion's greatest treasure, the golden eagle. Known as the Aquila, it represented the honor of the entire legion. Losing it in battle was considered one of the greatest disgraces imaginable. Every soldier would willingly risk his life to protect it. Behind the standards marched the officers. Then came the cohorts. Thousands of men moved in orderly columns, their sandals striking the road in steady rhythm. The sound could be heard long before the army appeared on the horizon. Metal armor clinked softly. Leather straps creaked. Spears bounced gently against shields. Pack mules followed behind, carrying heavier equipment that could not be carried by the men themselves. Although Roman roads were among the finest ever built, many journeys took the soldiers far beyond them. They crossed muddy fields after heavy rain. They climbed rocky mountain passes. They marched through dense forests where sunlight barely reached the ground. Sometimes they followed narrow paths along steep cliffs. Other times they crossed endless open plains where there was little shelter from the blazing sun. Weather often became the army's greatest enemy. In summer, heat exhausted both men and animals. Heavy armor trapped warmth against the body. Dust filled the air with every step. Water became precious. Centurions carefully controlled when and where the men could refill their supplies. In winter, conditions changed dramatically. Cold winds cut through woolen cloaks, rain-soaked clothing until it became heavy and uncomfortable. Frozen ground made every step more difficult. Snow covered mountain passes. Fingers became numb. Campfires offered only temporary relief. Yet, the march continued. Roman discipline did not change with the weather. A healthy legion could cover nearly 25 kilometers in a single day, sometimes even farther. And every evening, regardless of how exhausted they felt, the work was not finished. Upon reaching the chosen campsite, the soldiers immediately began constructing another fortified camp. To modernize, this seems almost unbelievable. After walking for hours carrying heavy equipment, most people would simply collapse from exhaustion. Roman soldiers did the opposite. They picked up shovels, axes, picks, and wooden stakes. First, surveyors marked out the exact shape of the camp. Everything followed a familiar design. Straight roads, square defenses, clearly marked entrances. Every soldier knew exactly where his tent belonged. Then came the digging. Deep ditches surrounded the camp. The removed earth formed protective banks. Wooden stakes were driven firmly into place, creating a defensive wall around the entire position. Watchtowers overlooked the entrances. Guards took their positions before darkness fell. Only when every defense had been completed were the soldiers allowed to prepare their evening meal. This nightly routine amazed Rome's enemies. Many opposing armies simply rested wherever they happened to stop. Roman legions carried their fortress with them. It was one of the greatest reasons they survived so many long campaigns. Life on campaign rarely meant constant fighting. In fact, battles were surprisingly rare. Much of a soldier's time was spent waiting for orders, waiting for reinforcements, waiting for enemy movements, patrolling roads, escorting supply wagons, repairing bridges, guarding captured towns. The boredom could sometimes feel as difficult as the danger. During quieter periods, soldiers repaired damaged equipment. They sharpened swords with whetstones. They polished helmets. Leather sandals, worn thin from hundreds of kilometers of marching, required frequent repairs. A broken sandal could slow an entire unit. The Roman army understood that small problems often became large ones if ignored. Food remained simple. Each soldier carried grain as part of his regular rations. Rather than receiving freshly baked bread every day, legionaries often ground the grain themselves. Small hand mills turned wheat into flour. The flour was mixed with water. Simple flatbreads were baked over open fires. Sometimes they prepared thick porridge instead. When available, meals included salted pork, smoked bacon, cheese, beans, lentils, onions, garlic, olives, and dried fruit. Fresh meat was less common unless hunting proved successful or nearby settlements supplied livestock. Water remained the most important necessity, but drinking untreated water from rivers could be dangerous. Instead, soldiers frequently mixed water with small amounts of wine or vinegar. This made it safer to drink and slightly improved the taste. The mixture, called posca, became one of the Roman soldiers' most common beverages. Despite its simplicity, it provided refreshment during long marches beneath the Mediterranean sun. Not every danger came from enemy warriors. Disease claimed countless lives. Poor sanitation, contaminated water, infected wounds, fever, dysentery. These invisible enemies often killed more soldiers than battles themselves. Roman military doctors became highly skilled for their time. Many camps contained small hospitals where injured or sick soldiers received treatment. Medical tools, discovered by archaeologists, show remarkable sophistication. Scalpels, forceps, bone saws, needles. While ancient medicine had many limitations, Roman military healthcare was among the most advanced in the ancient world. Of course, every soldier knew that eventually the waiting might end. Scouts would arrive with news, smoke rising in the distance, tracks crossing the road, enemy banners spotted on nearby hills. The atmosphere inside the camp changed immediately. Conversations grew quieter. Weapons were checked once more. Leather straps tightened, helmets fastened securely. Orders spread rapidly from one cohort to another. There was little shouting, little panic. Years of training had prepared every man for this moment. The Roman army believed calm discipline defeated reckless bravery. As dawn broke, the soldiers assembled outside the camp. The eagle standard stood proudly at the front. The centurions walked along the ranks, offering final instructions. Some men whispered prayers to Mars, the god of war. Others touched small charms carried beneath their armor. Many thought briefly of home. Then the order came. Forward, thousands of sandals struck the earth together. The legion advanced, slowly, steadily, with shields held firmly, not rushing, not charging wildly, simply moving as one. To an enemy watching from afar, the sight could be deeply unsettling. Every line remained straight. Every gap disappeared instantly. Commands passed smoothly from officer to officer. The Roman legion resembled a single living machine. And that reputation alone often frightened opponents before a sword had even been drawn. Not every battle was won. The Romans experienced terrible defeats throughout their history. Yet what truly separated them from many rivals was their ability to recover. A lost battle rarely ended a war. New legions were raised. Roads carried fresh supplies. Veteran officers trained new recruits. Again and again, Rome returned. Its greatest strength was not perfection. It was persistence. Campaign after campaign, year after year, generation after generation. The legionaries carried Rome farther than anyone could have imagined. Across Britain, into Gaul, along the Rhine, across the Danube, through the deserts of Syria, and into the mountains of Dacia. Wherever they marched, they carried more than weapons. They carried Roman law, Roman engineering, Roman language, and the unmistakable order that followed every legion. Among all these campaigns, however, none would become more famous than those led by one extraordinary commander, a man whose name would become almost inseparable from the Roman army itself, Julius Caesar. Under his leadership, the Roman legion would reach new heights of discipline, endurance, and military brilliance. By the middle of the 1st century BC, the Roman army had already earned a reputation as one of the most disciplined fighting forces in the ancient world. Its soldiers had marched across mountains, crossed vast rivers, and defeated powerful kingdoms. Yet, the army was about to undergo one of its most famous chapters. Its commander was a man whose name would echo through history for more than 2,000 years. Julius Caesar. Long before he became dictator of Rome, Caesar understood something few politicians truly appreciated. The loyalty of a Roman legion was not earned through speeches delivered in marble buildings. It was earned by sharing hardships, marching beside the soldiers, eating the same food, sleeping beneath the same cold skies. Caesar demanded much from his men, but he demanded just as much from himself. Many Roman writers described him as remarkably energetic. He often traveled long distances on horseback. Sometimes he walked beside the legionaries instead of riding comfortably. When food was scarce, he accepted the same simple meals as everyone else. His soldiers noticed these things, and gradually they came to admire him. For a Roman legionary, serving under Caesar was both an honor and an enormous challenge. His campaigns rarely remained quiet for long. There were always rivers to cross, forests to explore, fortifications to construct, or enemies gathering beyond the horizon. One of Caesar's greatest campaigns took place in Gaul. Today, this region includes much of modern France, Belgium, and parts of Switzerland. At the time, however, it was home to hundreds of independent tribes. Some traded peacefully with Rome. Others fiercely defended their independence. Caesar's mission was officially to secure Rome's northern frontier. In reality, the campaigns became one of the greatest military expansions of the Roman Republic. For the ordinary legionary, life in Gaul was unlike anything he had experienced before. The landscape seemed endless. Dense forests stretched across rolling hills. Wide rivers flowed between steep valleys. Winters were colder than those in Italy. Rain often soaked clothing for days at a time. The familiar warmth of the Mediterranean felt very far away. Each morning began before sunrise. A trumpet sounded through the camp. The soldiers packed their tents with practiced efficiency. Cooking fires were extinguished, equipment inspected, animals loaded. Then the march began. Once more, sometimes the legion traveled only a short distance before building another camp. Other days, they marched until sunset. The routine rarely changed. March, build, guard, sleep, repeat. Construction remained one of the army's greatest strengths. Whenever Caesar encountered an obstacle, his soldiers built a solution. If a river blocked their path, they built a bridge. If marshland slowed their advance, they laid wooden roads. If the hills overlooked their position, they constructed defensive walls. The Roman soldier carried both a sword and a shovel, and often the shovel proved just as important. Perhaps the most astonishing example came during Caesar's campaign against the Germanic tribes. The Rhine River formed a natural barrier between Gaul and Germania. It was broad, fast-flowing, and intimidating. Many commanders would have searched for boats. Caesar chose something far more ambitious. He ordered his army to build a bridge, not a temporary crossing of floating boats, a massive wooden bridge anchored into the riverbed itself. Thousands of soldiers worked together. Trees were cut, timbers shaped, massive wooden piles driven deep beneath the water. Within only a few days, the impossible stood before them. An entire army crossed the Rhine on a bridge built almost entirely by hand. The crossing was as much a demonstration of Roman engineering as military power. It sent a clear message. No natural obstacle could guarantee safety from Rome. The soldiers took enormous pride in achievements like these. Building such structures required teamwork unlike anything most civilians ever experienced. Every man had a role. Some cut timber, others measured distances, others carried heavy beams. Centurions supervised every stage. The result was a project completed with remarkable speed and precision. Engineering had become second nature. When battles finally came, they often arrived suddenly. Scouts returned with reports of enemy warriors gathering nearby. The atmosphere inside the camp changed immediately. Armor was polished one final time. Shields inspected carefully. Pilum, the heavy Roman throwing spear, was checked for damage. Unlike ordinary spears, the pilum had been cleverly designed. Its long iron shank bent after striking a shield. This prevented enemies from throwing it back. It also made shields awkward to carry. A warrior struck by several pila often abandoned his shield entirely. Only then did the Roman swordsman advance. Contrary to popular imagination, Roman soldiers did not rely on wide, dramatic sword swings. Those movements required energy and exposed the body. Instead, instructors taught short, controlled thrusts. The gladius, the famous Roman short sword, was perfectly suited for this technique. A quick thrust toward the abdomen could end a fight rapidly. The shield protected most of the body. The sword emerged only briefly before returning behind its cover. Simple, efficient, deadly. Every movement had been practiced thousands of times during training. The Roman legion functioned almost like a living machine. Each cohort knew its place. Each century moved according to carefully rehearsed commands. Trumpets signaled changes, standards marked positions. Centurions maintained order even in the confusion of battle. Yet, despite this discipline, fear never disappeared. Every soldier understood that the next arrow, the next spear, the next sword strike could be his last. Courage did not mean feeling no fear. It meant continuing despite it. When victory finally came, the battlefield fell strangely quiet. The shouting stopped. The dust settled. The wounded called for help. Medical teams moved quickly among the fallen. Friends searched desperately for familiar faces. Not every celebration felt joyful. Every victory carried a cost. Afterward, the work continued. Weapons were collected, armor repaired. The dead, buried with respect, whenever possible. Then, almost immediately, another fortified camp was built. Even after winning a battle, Roman discipline never relaxed. Caesar understood that overconfidence could destroy an army just as easily as defeat. One of the greatest challenges of the Gallic Wars came during the siege of Alesia. Caesar's army found itself in an extraordinary position. They surrounded a fortified Gallic town, but soon another massive Gallic army arrived to rescue those trapped inside. Suddenly, the Romans faced enemies on both sides. Most commanders would have retreated. Caesar chose another solution. His soldiers built not one wall, but two. One facing inward toward the town, another facing outward toward the approaching relief army. Between them lay the Roman camps. For weeks, the soldiers dug trenches, raised towers, built wooden defenses, placed hidden traps, worked from sunrise until darkness. When attacks finally came, they held their positions. Wave after wave of warriors crashed against the Roman fortifications, yet the legionaries endured. Eventually, the Gallic resistance collapsed. It became one of Caesar's greatest victories. For the ordinary soldier, however, it was remembered less for glory than exhaustion. Weeks of relentless labor, little sleep, constant vigilance. Military success often depended as much upon hard work as courage. Serving under Caesar also brought generous rewards. Successful campaigns produced treasure, captured equipment, coins, sometimes land. Caesar shared much of this wealth with his soldiers. Their loyalty grew stronger with every campaign. Some veterans later followed him even during Rome's civil wars, not because they had been forced, but because years of hardship had created extraordinary trust between commander and legion. By now, the Roman soldier had become far more than an infantryman. He was an engineer, a builder, a road maker, a bridge builder, a medic's assistant, a carpenter, a laborer, and, when necessary, one of the finest professional soldiers in the ancient world. His daily life required remarkable endurance. His victories rested upon preparation rather than luck, and his greatest weapon was not always the sword in his hand. It was the discipline within his mind. As Caesar's campaigns drew to a close, another transformation was beginning. The Republic itself was changing. Civil wars would soon reshape Rome forever. From those struggles would emerge a new political system, an empire, and under that empire, the Roman army would become even larger, even wealthier, and more permanent than ever before. As the civil wars came to an end, Rome entered a new age. The Republic faded into history. In its place stood the Roman Empire. Its first emperor, Augustus, understood that conquering territory was only half the challenge. Holding it was far more difficult. An empire stretching thousands of kilometers required more than powerful generals. It required permanent soldiers, professional soldiers, men who would spend years, sometimes decades, stationed far from the city of Rome. For many legionaries, this became their new reality. Rather than constantly marching from one battlefield to another, they found themselves assigned to frontier forts scattered across the edges of the empire. Some served beside the misty rivers of northern Europe. Others guarded the scorching deserts of North Africa. Many stood watch in Britain, where rain, fog, and bitter winds seemed almost constant. Every frontier presented its own challenges. Yet, life remained remarkably familiar. The Roman army valued routine above almost everything else. Every morning began before sunrise. The sound of a trumpet echoed through the fortress. Soldiers quickly rose from their wooden beds. Blankets were folded neatly, armor was inspected, sandals were checked for wear, weapons were cleaned before breakfast. Even after years of service, discipline never relaxed. Breakfast remained simple, fresh bread if the ovens had been busy during the night, cheese, olives, sometimes smoked meat, and the familiar mixture of watered wine or posca. The meal was not luxurious, it was practical. The army cared far more about nourishment than variety. Once breakfast ended, the day's assignments were announced. Not every soldier spent the day carrying a shield. Some guarded the main gate, others patrolled nearby roads. Some escorted tax collectors through newly conquered provinces, others supervised merchants entering military settlements. Many spent the day building. Construction never truly stopped. Rome's frontiers were constantly expanding, improving, and strengthening. Roads required repairs after harsh winters, bridges weakened with age, watchtowers needed rebuilding, walls demanded constant maintenance. The Roman soldier became as skilled with construction tools as with weapons. A visitor arriving at one of these frontier forts might be surprised by what they found. Rather than endless rows of tents, many forts resembled small towns. Stone walls surrounded orderly streets, barracks lined the interior. There were workshops for blacksmiths and carpenters, granaries stored food for months, bathhouses offered warm water after long days of work. Hospitals treated the sick and injured. Some forts even contained temples where soldiers worshipped together. Life inside these forts followed a carefully organized rhythm. Everything had its place, everything had a purpose. The barracks themselves were modest but comfortable by ancient standards. Each room housed a small group of soldiers known as a contubernium. Usually 8 men shared one living space. They slept together, cooked together, marched together, and fought side by side. Living so closely created strong friendships. The men quickly learned one another's habits, who snored loudly, who woke first, who told the best stories after supper, who always managed to burn the bread. Small moments like these made military life more bearable. Over time, these soldiers became more like brothers than strangers. Although Roman military regulations officially discouraged marriage during much of a soldier's career, real life was often more complicated. Many frontier forts gradually attracted civilian settlements. Merchants established shops, craftsmen opened workshops, families settled nearby. Children played in the streets outside the fortress walls. Some soldiers quietly formed long-term relationships with local women. Others eventually married after completing their military service. These growing communities helped spread Roman culture across distant provinces. Latin became more widely spoken. Roman clothing appeared in local markets. Roman architecture reshaped entire regions. The army was not only protecting the empire, it was helping create it. Of course, danger never disappeared completely. Beyond many frontiers lived tribes who had no desire to become part of Rome. Along the Rhine River, Germanic warriors watched the movements of Roman patrols. North of Hadrian's Wall in Britain, fierce tribal groups occasionally launched raids into Roman territory. In the eastern provinces, powerful kingdoms challenged Roman influence. Because of these threats, soldiers regularly practiced battle formations. Training never truly ended. Even experienced veterans continued marching, continued drilling, continued practicing with swords and shields. The instructors believed that skill faded without repetition. An army that stopped training was already beginning to weaken. One of the most recognizable formations remained the testudo, or tortoise formation. When enemy arrows filled the sky, the soldiers locked their shields together. Those in front held shields outward. Those behind raised theirs overhead. Together, they created a protective shell. From a distance, the formation resembled the hard shell of a tortoise. It demanded enormous discipline. Every soldier trusted the men beside him completely. One misplaced shield could expose several others. This formation became one of the defining images of Roman military discipline. Not every threat came from war. Fire was a constant concern inside wooden buildings. Disease spread quickly if sanitation declined. Food supplies could spoil during wet seasons. Harsh winters sometimes isolated forts for weeks. Preparation became essential. Granaries, stored enormous quantities of grain. Fresh water was carefully protected. Medical staff inspected both food and living conditions whenever possible. Roman military medicine continued improving throughout the imperial period. Doctors accompanied many legions. Hospitals, known as valetudinaria, were carefully organized. Patients were separated according to their condition. Medical instruments were cleaned. Bandages replaced regularly. Although ancient medicine lacked modern knowledge of bacteria, Roman military hospitals were remarkably advanced compared to many other societies of the time. Some soldiers recovered from terrible wounds that might otherwise have proved fatal. Others sadly did not. Whenever a fellow legionary died, his companions often held simple ceremonies. The Roman army valued remembrance. Gravestones discovered across Europe still tell their stories today. Many record the soldier's name, his age, his legion, sometimes even the number of years he served. Reading them now reminds us that behind every famous campaign stood ordinary individuals with hopes, fears, families, and dreams. As the years passed, experienced soldiers sometimes earned promotion. The most respected became centurions. Despite the name, a centurion did not always command exactly 100 men. Instead, he became responsible for discipline, leadership, and training. Centurions were admired throughout the army. Many had survived countless campaigns. Their armor often appeared more elaborate. Decorated helmets identified their rank. Vine staffs remained symbols of authority. Good centurions earned respect through experience rather than fear. They marched with their men, shared dangers, led from the front. Many died doing exactly that. One of the greatest rewards awaiting every legionary lay beyond military service itself. After approximately 25 years, a soldier who completed his service honorably could retire. The ceremony marked the end of a remarkable journey. Many veterans received financial rewards, others were granted farmland. Auxiliary soldiers often received Roman citizenship, changing not only their own lives, but those of their children as well. Veterans frequently settled near the provinces where they had served. They established farms, opened businesses, married, raised families. In doing so, they carried Roman customs far beyond Italy. The empire continued expanding not only through conquest, but through the quiet lives of retired soldiers. By now, the Roman legion had reached the height of its effectiveness. It protected borders stretching from the Atlantic Ocean to the deserts of the Middle East. Its roads connected continents. Its forts guarded rivers, mountains, and coastlines. To many people living beyond the empire, Rome seemed permanent, unshakable, almost eternal. But history has a way of reminding every great civilization that nothing lasts forever. Slowly, almost unnoticed at first, new pressures began to appear. Political instability, economic hardship, foreign invasions, civil wars. The army that had once united the empire would soon find itself struggling simply to preserve it. As the centuries passed, even the greatest army in the ancient world began to change. The Roman legion had conquered kingdoms, crossed continents, and defended an empire stretching from Britain to Egypt. For generations, its discipline had been unmatched. Its engineering had astonished both allies and enemies. Its soldiers had become symbols of order in a world often defined by uncertainty. But no army, however powerful, remains unchanged forever. The empire itself had grown so vast that protecting every frontier became increasingly difficult. New enemies emerged from beyond Rome's borders. Some sought land, others sought wealth. Many simply searched for safer places to live as other peoples pushed them from their own homes. Along the Rhine and Danube rivers, Germanic tribes became more organized than ever before. In the east, the powerful Persian Empire challenged Roman authority. The frontiers that had once seemed secure demanded larger armies, greater resources, and constant attention. At the same time, Rome faced problems from within. Emperors rose and fell with alarming speed. Some ruled wisely, others ruled only briefly before being overthrown. Civil wars became increasingly common. Instead of fighting foreign enemies, Roman soldiers sometimes found themselves marching against fellow Romans. These internal conflicts weakened the empire. Every civil war consumed valuable soldiers. Every political struggle drained the treasury. Every change in leadership created uncertainty throughout the army. A young legionary might swear loyalty to one emperor only to find himself serving another a few months later. For ordinary soldiers, life became less predictable. Pay was sometimes delayed. Equipment was not always replaced as quickly as before. Recruitment standards slowly changed. Earlier generations of legionaries had often come from Italy. Now, recruits arrived from every corner of the empire: Gaul, Spain, North Africa, the Balkans, Syria. Many spoke Latin with different accents. Some learned it only after joining the army. Yet, despite these differences, military service continued to unite men under one purpose. The Roman eagle still inspired pride. The discipline remained, but the world around it was changing. The nature of warfare also evolved. Rome increasingly relied on cavalry to respond quickly across its enormous borders. Heavily armored horsemen became more common. Auxiliary troops from distant provinces played larger roles in defending the empire. The famous heavy infantry remained important, but it was no longer the only backbone of Rome's military strength. As the 4th century progressed, pressure along the frontiers intensified. Entire populations moved across Europe. Some fled invading peoples from farther east. Others hoped to settle within Roman territory. Managing these migrations proved enormously difficult. Sometimes agreements were reached peacefully. Other times, misunderstandings erupted into violence. One of the most devastating moments came in AD 378 at the Battle of Adrianople. A Roman army faced the Goths in what is now modern-day Turkey. The battle ended in disaster. Emperor Valens himself was killed. Thousands of Roman soldiers fell beside him. For many historians, Adrianople marked a turning point. It demonstrated that Rome's enemies had become stronger, more organized, and fully capable of defeating imperial armies. Yet, Rome continued. As it had done for centuries, it rebuilt. New soldiers filled the ranks. New commanders took charge. The empire refused to surrender. Even so, the challenges continued to grow. In AD 410, an event occurred that shocked the ancient world. For the first time in nearly 800 years, the city of Rome itself was captured by a foreign army. The Visigoths, led by Alaric, entered the Eternal City. Although much of Rome survived, the psychological impact was immense. People across the empire struggled to believe the news. The city that had conquered so much of the known world had itself been conquered. For the soldiers stationed far from Italy, the news must have felt almost unimaginable. Many had spent their entire careers believing Rome was eternal. Now they realized that even the greatest cities could fall. Still, the Western Roman Empire endured for several more decades. Legions continued guarding frontiers. Fortresses remained occupied. Veterans retired. Young recruits took the military oath just as countless others had before them. But the empire was no longer the unstoppable force it had once been. Finally, in AD 476, the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, was removed from power. His deposition is traditionally remembered as the end of the Western Roman Empire. There was no single dramatic final battle, no last stand involving every legion. Instead, the empire gradually transformed into something new. Roman authority faded. Local kingdoms emerged. The ancient world quietly entered the Middle Ages. Yet, the story of the Roman soldier did not truly end there. The roads they built continued carrying travelers for centuries. Many remain visible today. The bridges they constructed still stand over rivers that they once crossed on campaign. The walls they raised still overlook valleys and coastlines. Fragments of their forts remain scattered across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Archaeologists continue uncovering sandals worn smooth by thousands of kilometers of marching, helmets dented in battle, coins carried in leather purses, writing tablets filled with ordinary messages, shopping lists, requests for warm clothing, invitations to birthday celebrations. These discoveries remind us that Roman soldiers were not simply names in history books. They were ordinary people. They worried about the weather. They missed their families. They laughed with friends around evening campfires. They complained about long marches. They repaired broken sandals. They hoped to survive long enough to enjoy retirement. Many never did. Others returned home, carrying stories that their grandchildren would remember for generations. The Roman army also left behind ideas that continue to influence the modern world: military discipline, professional training, engineering, logistics, permanent fortifications, standardized equipment, organized medical care. Many modern armies still reflect principles first perfected by Roman legionaries nearly 2,000 years ago. Perhaps that is why the Roman soldier continues to capture our imagination. Not because he was fearless, not because he was invincible, but because he represented dedication, preparation, perseverance. He understood that greatness was rarely achieved through a single heroic moment. Instead, it was built one march at a time, one training session, one carefully constructed road, one fortified camp, one difficult day repeated over many years. As the sun slowly sets over the ruins of the Roman Forum, the noise of marching sandals grows quieter. The bronze trumpets fall silent. Campfires flicker gently beneath a sky filled with stars. The legionaries finish their evening meal. Their shields rest neatly outside their tents. Their helmets catch the last warm light of the fading day. Tomorrow they will rise before dawn. Once again, another road awaits, another bridge, another distant frontier, another chapter in the long story of Rome. And although the empire itself has long since passed into history, the legacy of those ordinary soldiers continues to live on in the roads we travel, the laws we inherit, and the history we still tell today. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the life of a Roman soldier. If you enjoyed this peaceful exploration of history, I'd be grateful if you subscribed and joined us for another relaxing journey through the ancient world. For now, close your eyes. Let the sounds of the Roman camp fade into the distance, and may your evening be peaceful. Good night.